Hi, I'm Allie Camilletti, and you are listening to Snack Leadership. I will be talking about everything leadership, broken down into bite-sized pieces. You will hear what different leadership skills look like in organizations and how they can rise teams up or take them down. My hope is for you to feel inspiration and to create a spark in your mindset. Today we are talking about innovation. Innovation is defined as a new idea, method, or device. I'm talking with Matt Hand of Hand in Hand Productions. He has been an entrepreneur for 17 years, and prior to 2020, he supported live events with his audiovisual services. This last year, he rented out a studio on my property and became part of our quarantine family, where I had the pleasure of watching his innovative mindset launch into a completely new business model. Get ready to hear what innovation is all about. Hi, Matt. Thank you for joining us today.
You're quite welcome, Allie. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
I'm so excited to talk about innovation. All right, what has made you embrace innovation?
You know, it feels weird now that life is kind of opening back up. But when the pandemic hit, I had to innovate. I was coming from a place of a production that um, I was coming from a place that my business completely disintegrated overnight. Did a lot of events and it stopped literally overnight. So I had to innovate, and innovation has always been something that I'm always embracing technology, and technology seems to always be progressing. But last year and this last 12 to 18 months, it's been just such a change. And if you didn't innovate, it's the saying, you innovate or die, and that's literally what I had to do. And it's great to do more than anything else. It keeps you on your toes, that is for sure.
That is for sure. So, when you have worked in different cultures or you have watched other cultures, what did you see when you saw innovation really happening?
Innovation is one of those things that when you give a chance for people to innovate, they actually will reward the organization greatly. In a culture of innovation, it's commonly pushing the envelope, and it just allows the whole organization to lift up. Uh, Stagnation without innovation, it just basically you're going through life. Innovation causes a sense of lightness and excitement and energy in a company to just keep pushing the envelope, and working within those environments just is such a stimulating and rewarding opportunity.
Yeah. As you're saying that, it's reminding me of one of the 6 principles with tigers is risk. And as I have been going through and deep diving into these principles recently, risk is about not being comfortable or being comfortable, sharing when you make mistakes. And one of the examples they were talking about is a company that embraces bringing mistakes in as a way of getting innovative. And so, if a mistake happened, let's walk through it and talk about what could have been done differently, and even changing possible products that they're using in an organization or systems and processes. And then being a part of that when you're changing it to make it better is part of innovation. And it's this energy and synergy that happens in cultures that I personally like.
I totally agree. It's the that constant reinvention, and how it looks to be pushing and pushing each other. It just rewards the organization in such a positive way. I've been blessed with some amazing teams over the years that just we elevate everyone, and when we're all pushing each other, you go to such higher levels, and it's so rewarding.
Absolutely. So, what about cultures that are not embracing innovation? Have you experienced that before?
I spent a period of time working for a business that they did. We were in an innovation space. However, unfortunately, we kind of stagnated and sort of began Well, I mean, systemization is not a bad thing, but systemization at the cost of innovation can really not be a very good thing. And we unfortunately had started to put boxes around innovation, and it caused some real backlash, and employee happiness, employee satisfaction suffered immensely. And we all sort of began to feel like we were just walking the same road as opposed to trying to build something or strive for greatness. And it just is not a great place at all. And I just encourage everybody to look within yourself and figure out what spark of innovation you can start, because it is so, so important for organization and for a business as a whole.
Can you use an example of how you put people in a box where they weren't able to innovate by those systems?
Yeah, I think, measurement is sort of the systemization that I refer to. And so when you start to measure outcomes, sometimes you don't really look at the bigger picture of what an outcome could look like. So, for instance, did you get all your calls in place? I've never worked in a call center, so I can only, this is an easy one to look at. But hey, you're supposed to do 3 calls an hour, or you're supposed to do X. Well, if you're an inbound call center, the satisfaction of the customer is way more important than how many calls you do. So you could be suffering, with this measurement, but you're not innovating in the fact that, well, the customer is being more satisfied, or what if we did it this way, or what if we did it this way? Just that little bit of breathability around the sort of the structure of measurement sometimes can allow for even a better measurement sometimes, because we need to be looking at a broader picture of what it means to measure within innovation, because innovation is, unless you have a goal for that innovation and what it looks like to grow, there will be no innovation. And so we're going to innovate by, measuring all these metrics. Well, what's the end goal? And so starting with that end goal in mind of, we want to measure this and we want to innovate because of this, is always important. And is that sort of what you're referring to, Allie?
Well, you're talking my language. Absolutely. I would say that that is one thing that I end up sometimes having to deprogram with reservation sales agents that I'm coaching. And that is that sometimes they have had those metrics so focused on, and I think specifically of your call time. And it's easy as somebody's getting a lot of data to be like, oh, we need to focus on this, and this is how we really drive revenue. And I'm like, actually, let's kind of move that backwards and take that out, especially when you're starting to learn your voice. And we want to make sure that we're connecting and we're relationship building and we're empathizing. And when I talk about call scoring, I will say these are the areas we're focusing on, but I want you to have that flexibility to have your own voice, because I know that if you don't, because I've had this experience where I've gone in, I've listened to a call, they're like, this person's scoring at 100%, but their conversion's down, which is how many bookings compared to leads. And I'm like, oh yeah, well, listen, there isn't any heart in it. So there's a couple things that happen when we push metrics on people that we think really drive revenue that don't, is they turn into a robot. The heart isn't there. People want to feel connected, especially when you're creating an experience or you're looking forward to an experience. And then the other piece is that they feel rushed and they start talking too fast. And then you totally miss connection that way. So, good example. Thank you.
Yeah, I think for me, I think it's been interesting because one of my, I'm a big Apple fanboy, and they've been constantly innovating. And some of my best experiences have been, and for every good, there's also a bad. And I've heard other people have had bad experiences, but to sit there at on a tech, you go to the Apple, the Genius Bar or Genius Desk now, and for them to just take the time to figure out what your problem might be is a measurement of true innovation, as opposed to, well, you just got to get the person in and out as quick as possible. And that's so important these days. And the connection that forms from that innovation of, instead of innovating for a number, innovating to build a relationship, is I think a missed message sometimes.
Yeah, especially after this year, there's huge disconnection that's happened. People are craving connection in ways that they don't even know. And there'll be all kinds of data that's going to come out and talk about that and the repercussions of that. It's very important to have that human piece of connection.
I agree totally.
All right, who's your favorite mentor?
So I got to go to an easy one, and that's Brene Brown. I'm sure there's lots of people that talk about it, but Brene for me just she speaks across so many different languages as far as innovation and empathy and all of the things that I connect to as a leader. And that's just for me just been so important. I'm also I been listening recently to a audiobook on Bob Iger. And Bob is one of those people that I had no idea he connects on such a deep level to his people. And they've always had to be innovating too, because Bob was basically the head of Disney. And it's been really fascinating to listen to him. So, all of these people that are out there, I will say, though, that Brene has been sort of my goalpost over the years.
And I am a huge fan of Brene Brown as well. She was introduced to me when I listened to her TED Talk on vulnerability. And I will say that started my journey of real personal self work. And this last weekend, when I was driving back from the coast, I started her podcast, which I can't believe I had missed, Glennon Doyle and her talking. And it was one of those things that it just kept going podcast after podcast as I'm driving and I'm crying like happy tears, but also deep tears of like, we're humans. And how do we really dig into who we are and who we want to be and be brave enough to be those humans every day? And that constant mindfulness. Gotta love some Brene. All right. So, what is a quote that you feel embodies innovation?
Yeah, I think, again, going back to being a huge Apple fan fanatic, I used a Apple II Plus as a kid. So I've literally been around Apple computers since I was a little kid. I think it has to do with a quote by Steve Jobs that says, let's go invent tomorrow rather than worrying about what happened yesterday. That is, this what we've been talking about. But the reality is that sometimes we have to worry about, or not worry, but let's go figure out what we can do about tomorrow, as opposed to, past is past. We got to look at it, say, hey, we've learned something by it, and we're going to move forward.
Yeah, I really like that. And there's so many different industries that they've had to change over this last year, but also keeping some of that change. Doesn't mean we go back to what we did before. How do we bring it all together and have that company even stronger now that they have implemented those different pieces?
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, the businesses that I know that have survived they've just been pushing and pushing and pushing over the last year. And there are some that for reasons that they had to, I know several people in the event space that kind of were like, there's nothing we can do. We can't go out and do events that we normally do. So what does that look like for us? And they had to do their own personal, they had to go and reinvent themselves personally as far as, okay, what can I do for the next year to survive? And now business is starting to pick up again. And so they're moving back into that space. But that constant push to, make reinvention and how do we make this process better is just, I think, such a core for you as a person as well as a business, and that's just so important.
Exactly. All right. I like to wrap it up with what's your favorite snack?
So I have to admit that, being that we're recording this at Easter, unfortunately Cadbury comes out with these little tiny chocolate eggs right now, and that's unfortunately what it is. But I do like some nice, Costco sells these really great gluten-free rice. I think they're rice flour, I think, crackers that are really good. Cheese is always one of my go-tos. Probably shouldn't be, but I do like me some good Tillamook cheese. That's for sure.
I thought you were going to say Peeps.
No way. I throw Peeps in the microwave. Don't do this at home, but try it sometime.
Oh, I know exactly what happens. All right, Matt. Thank you so much for your time. I'm so appreciative.
Thank you very much, Allie, for having me again.
All right. Have an awesome day.
You too.
Thank you for tuning in to Snack Leadership. I hope you felt inspiration, motivation, and felt your mindset spark. Snack Leadership is recorded and produced by myself, Ali Camilletti, and music by Shireen Amini.